You check your phone. It's 7:42 a.m. You know exactly how late you are. You know exactly how much time is left before the meeting starts. But for almost all of human history, nobody knew what time it was. Not really. And somehow they were never late. That sounds impossible. You live inside a grid of minutes. Your ancestors didn't. They lived inside something else entirely, something your body still remembers even now, every single day, whether you notice it or not. Here is the strange part. The first humans didn't need a clock because they weren't measuring time. They were reading it. The sky was the instrument. The sun rose, climbed, and fell, and its shadow moved across the ground like a slow hand on a dial nobody had to build. A shadow stretching east meant morning. A shadow shrinking to nothing meant noon. A shadow stretching long again meant the day was closing. No numbers, no ticking, just light, angle, and instinct. Early humans tracked more than the sun. They tracked the moon's full cycle, watching it swell and vanish over roughly 29 days. They tracked the stars, watching certain constellations rise just before dawn at certain points in the year. Ancient Egyptian priests used this exact method. They watched the star Sirius reappear in the morning sky after months of invisibility, and that single event told them the Nile was about to flood. One star, one moment, an entire civilization's planting season depended on it. But what about night? What about the hours when the sun was gone and the sky offered no shadow to read? This is where it gets clever. Ancient Egyptians divided the night sky into 36 star groups called decans. As the night went on, different decans rose above the horizon in sequence, almost like a slow-moving star clock stretched across the dark. A trained priest could glance up, find the right decan, and know roughly how many hours of night remained. It wasn't precise. It didn't need to be. Nobody was rushing to a 9 o'clock meeting. Sundials eventually formalized what the body already understood. The earliest known sundials date back over 3,000 years. Simple shadow clocks used in ancient Egypt and Babylon. A vertical stick, a flat surface marked with lines. The shadow moved and the day was divided into pieces. But there was a flaw nobody could fix for a very long time. Daylight hours weren't fixed length. Ancient timekeeping systems often split the day into 12 hours, no matter how long daylight actually lasted. That meant a summer hour stretched far longer than a winter hour. Time itself breathed in and out with the seasons. Then night fell, and the sundial became useless. Humans needed something else, so they built water clocks. The water clock, or clepsydra, dripped water from one container to another at a steady rate, and the water level marked the passing hours. Ancient Egyptian and Babylonian engineers built early versions over 3,000 years ago. Later, Greek and Roman versions grew far more elaborate with floats, gears, and bells. Some Chinese water clocks, refined over centuries, became astonishingly precise, powering entire mechanical towers that chimed automatically. For the first time, time could be measured indoors, at night, in darkness, without ever looking at the sky. Still, water clocks had problems. Temperature changed the flow rate. Cold mornings dripped slower than warm afternoons. So humans tried fire instead. Candle clocks burned at a fixed rate with hour marks carved directly into the wax. As the flame ate downward, it passed each mark, and you'd know the hour had turned. Incense clocks worked the same way in parts of East Asia, burning along a winding path, sometimes with small weights attached on threads that dropped into a metal tray at set intervals, ringing out the hour like a tiny alarm with no machinery at all. Notice something about every single one of these inventions. None of them created time. They only made the body's existing rhythm visible, and that rhythm runs far deeper than any sundial or candle. In 1962, a French geologist named Michel Siffre descended into a cave in the Alps and stayed there alone for 2 months, completely cut off from sunlight, clocks, and any cue about day or night. He wanted to see what would happen to his sense of time without the sky to guide him. What happened was startling. His body kept a rhythm anyway. Not a perfect 24-hour rhythm, but close, drifting slightly longer each cycle. His internal clock didn't vanish in the dark. It just lost its anchor. Around the same period, a German scientist named Jürgen Aschoff ran a related experiment, placing volunteers in an underground bunker with no windows, no clocks, and no contact with the outside world. Their sleep and wake cycles didn't collapse into chaos. They settled into a steady rhythm of their own, slightly off from a true day, proving something remarkable. Long before sundials or water clocks existed, your ancestors' bodies were already running their own built-in clock, ticking quietly in every cell. This explains something that should feel obvious, but somehow doesn't. Ancient humans didn't need an alarm to wake at dawn. Their biology was the alarm. Hunger came on a rhythm. Sleepiness came on a rhythm. Even without a single tool, the body divided the day into segments all on its own. In 2015, a researcher named Jerome Siegel led a study with fieldwork by Gandhi Yetish, observing 3 modern pre-industrial societies, including the Hadza of Tanzania, communities that still live without electric light or clocks. The data showed something that overturned a popular assumption. These groups didn't sleep the moment the sun went down. They stayed active for hours after sunset, then slept for a relatively consistent stretch, waking before sunrise. Their sleep wasn't governed by darkness alone. It was governed by an internal rhythm refined over hundreds of thousands of years. The same rhythm you still carry inside you right now, whether or not you've ever noticed it. So why did humans bother inventing sundials and water clocks at all, if the body already knew roughly what time it was? Because individual rhythm isn't the same as shared rhythm. A farmer's body might say it's time to eat. A monk's body might say it's time to sleep. But a temple needs everyone praying at once. A market needs everyone trading at the same hour. A ship needs its crew rotating watch on a fixed schedule, especially at sea, where there's no familiar landscape to read at all. Time stopped being personal the moment humans needed to coordinate with each other. And that single shift, from private rhythm to shared schedule, is the real reason clocks exist at all. Medieval European monasteries became some of the most disciplined timekeepers in history. Monks needed to gather for prayer at specific hours through the night, every night, with total consistency. They relied on candle clocks, water clocks, and eventually mechanical bells to enforce a rhythm no single body could hold alone. Mechanical clocks began appearing in European towers by the late 13th and early 14th centuries. And for the first time in human history, an entire town could organize itself around a single ringing bell instead of 1,000 separate internal clocks scattered across 1,000 separate bodies. That's the real story hiding underneath the question of how people told time before clocks. They weren't lost without one. They were never without one. The clock was already inside them, inherited from ancestors who needed to know when to hunt, when to gather, when to rest, and when danger was most likely to arrive in darkness. The sundial, the water clock, the candle, the bell tower, all of it was humanity slowly building an external copy of something biology had already perfected. Tonight, when you glance at your phone to check the time, something ancient is quietly running underneath that number. Your hunger, your sleepiness, your sudden burst of alertness in the late afternoon, none of that comes from the screen in your hand. It comes from a rhythm older than sundials, older than written language, older than the first city ever built. You don't just own a clock. Somewhere inside you, you still are one.